But now we're live on Facebook, so we can start.
Okay.
Great. Good evening, ladies. It's 18:32, the protocols of the meeting. Please mute yourself if you are not speaking. The background noises might interfere with people who may be speaking or be on the virtual platform. Make sure that if you want to be seen on camera, you can switch your camera on, but if your bandwidth is low, please, you can keep your camera off. There will be time for Q&A, and what we love for us to do during Q&A, there's an application there where you can raise your hand if you have a question, and Nonhli you'll be helping maybe to spot people who will be having questions during Q&A. And so what we want to follow is that please no discriminatory statements against anyone, no sexist bigotry or anything that wants to put anyone down. Let's have a conversation in an atmosphere of respect and acknowledgement of how different we are as people. And so welcome, ladies. I believe we're going to have a great night. Last week, we had such a vibrant conversation that we had amongst ourselves. There were questions, and we ended up with like sex and spirituality, really? How do those things come together? But tonight, Kagiso is that audacious woman. She is that person, really, that will break down this for us, who is unflinching when she speaks about it, and she will enlighten us. And I mean, I always say wisdom is shared. Whatever she's going to pour out of her cup tonight, you might be pouring back and making her gain more insights as she leaves the platform. And we believe you are going to get the same from her. A brief introduction, she will speak more about herself, what she does. But what I do, and looking at her profile, she's Kagiso Msimang. And then here, remember how it's written, it's re, and then there's a dash in between. Remember yourself. I believe, guys, they speak about like sexual liberation. I'm open to listening. So you might have to remember yourself tonight. So she does personal, exceptionally personal work. It involves things that she holds dear to her heart. And Kagiso, I am not going to be taking the platform. I'll let you just give a brief profile of what you do, and then I'll start asking questions after you have spoken about that. If I've left gentlemen that sometimes join us in the background and we don't recognize them in the platform, welcome, guys. And to you, Kagiso, you may take the virtual stage and speak briefly of what is the work that you do. You are on mute. Kagi?
Yes, I have unmuted myself. Thank you for the hype. I'm not sure that I want to live up to it, but it's okay. I just show up as myself always. So what do? I generally do whatever I feel like doing, which sometimes lasts for a really long time. Sometimes it lasts for a week, a month, a year, a couple of years. So the parts of my life that have been consistent is writing. I write all the time. I've been writing since I was 3 years old, believe it or not. I write notes, I write blogs, I write books. So people often say I'm an author. I've written 3 books. Let me see if I can grab them for you quickly. 1, 2, 3. So I've got one of those stupid cameras on Zoom, so things are going to be backwards. So this is book number 2. This is book number 1 from 2012, and this is the latest one from Corona. You know, Corona time is weird. Since Corona, I never know what's going on. So sometimes people say I'm an author, but I don't consider myself an author. Anybody who's written a book is an author. I'm a writer. I write constantly. I write all the time. So that's been consistent in my life. I am a seeker. I have very little tolerance for discomfort. So anytime something is uncomfortable, I try to figure out why it's broken and how I can fix it. I do that for myself, but I don't like keeping goodies for myself. And as soon as I figure it out for myself, I share it with other people. I do that through one-on-one coaching. I give classes, I write books, I write blogs, I do energy clearings. Occasionally, since I was 19 years old, and that was a very long time ago, I do brand and marketing work. I'm doing less and less of it now. Actually, about a month ago, I deleted my profile off LinkedIn. So I feel like I'm not going to be doing much of that anymore. I've been a mother for the past 14 years. And so those are the things that I can say with certainty, because I change my mind so often about everything else. I'm a brat like that. I only do things that I want to do, which is a path I recommend. It's quite fun. That's why I can look like I'm 25 when I'm not. If you do things you hate, it makes you look old. Right. So now to today's topic. It's very big, it's very vast. And I thought I would be able to sort of organize my thoughts and do a presentation. That didn't happen, which is not bad, because the problem with presentations is once you put it together, you get very married to it. You want to talk about things in the order. And when somebody asks you a question, you're like, no, it's coming in slide 15 instead of addressing it. So I actually think it's not a bad thing that didn't happen. So what I'm going to do is, because I could start anyway, I'd like somebody to ask me some question that has to do with sex and spirituality, anyone, and then we'll just take it from there.
Maybe let me lead the questioning to you, emanating from the conversation that went on last week.
Yeah.
What emanated from what we were discussing last week, it's about energies, communing in sex. And what we ended up speaking about was that sex is spiritual. And once you had shared yourself sexually with somebody, if you move on and that person is no more your partner, you need to cleanse yourself. That's why we ended up with the question of sex and spirituality. How do those two connect, if we may start there?
Okay, so let's talk about cleansing yourself, right? So what you're referring to is something called sexual chords, right? So chords, let's talk about chords. We have something called energetic chords. So what happens is that we have a physical body, and then we have something called energy bodies. And so we're not just physical, we have an energy. People call it an aura and all of those kinds of things. I'm sure you've heard things like that around us. Some people can see these auras, some don't, but the fact that we can't see them does not mean they don't exist. And one of the things that I actually did manage to do while I was waiting for my daughter in her drama class is look up some things that I thought might come up in this conversation. So I'm going to put up a quote. I contradict myself sometimes, because I always say to people, I hate it when people ask you, what's your source? The question bothers me very, very much, because we need to all get to a point where we are our own source. And the way you become your own source is you develop your intuition, and you get to a point where you can have a very clear discernment of what is true and what is not. And the other thing that I should say about myself is that I go off on many tangents, but they all come together. So don't freak out if it sounds like I'm talking about one thing and it becomes something else. So one of the things that I put, so for the sake of the what's your source people, because many people are still stuck on, you need to have a source when you speak about something. So I'm going to share my screen a quote that I picked for in case it came up. So before I talk about the chords, so this is from Anthony Peake. He wrote a book called The Hidden Universe, and he talks about the visible spectrum and the fact that people see very little as humans. Our eyes and our minds process so little. But unfortunately, we've got this belief that the only things that exist are things you can see. If you can touch it, smell it, taste it, whatever. And if you can't engage your 5 physical senses, it doesn't exist. And one of the things that he says in his book, which I have in my book, Unfuck Yourself, Unfuck the World, he says, if the total frequency spectrum was equal to the length of the Mississippi River, which apparently is 3,779 kilometers, then all frequencies that we as humans can detect with our senses would equal just a couple of inches of its length. That's how much, or rather how little, we perceive as human beings. And unfortunately, we have been for a very long time in a culture where it's like, if it's not something that you can engage with your 5 senses, it does not exist. So we've got an aura, we've got an energetic body, and every single time you engage with something or someone, you extend your energy into it. So right now, as we're speaking now, we have created energetic cords with each other. That's why when you engage with people, beyond the words they use, you can feel stuff. Like somebody, I can say to, I don't know, I'll pick a random name, to Ofenze, how are you doing? And she's like, no, I'm great, I'm perfect. And everything about the words and the movements say that she's perfect. But I can pick up that I know this girl Ashap, because there's also an energetic element that's involved. And when we disengage from each other, those cords dissolve by themselves. When you are reading a book I wrote, you connect energetically to me. When you're done, you disengage. That's normally how cords work. However, cords can become permanent, or rather, permanent is not the right word, but they can exist beyond the interaction. And one of the cords that exists beyond the interaction is a cord between a mother and that child. And I bring this up because it's quite important to the topic of sex. So I'm going to write a note here about it so I can come back to it. So mothers have a cord with their children that extends for many, many years after the child is born. And if the mother-child relationship is healthy, once the child is grown up enough to stand on their own, the cord dissolves. And I say if the relationship is healthy. Sometimes these relationships are not healthy because some mothers are attached too much to their children and they want to control your life and dictate how you do your life or whatever. And this is the cord that makes it possible for a mother to have some sense of the child's well-being, irrespective of distance. And anyone here who's a mother knows that. You will know if something significantly wrong is happening with your child. You might not have the detail of it, but you know to pick up the phone, check on them or whatever, you get a feeling because it's because of that cord. Another cord that lasts for a long time is a sexual cord. So when you have sex with someone, you create an energetic cord that lasts for 7 years minimum, right? And when I say minimum is that, say you go out to the club, I can't mention any clubs, I haven't been clubbing for years, but whatever the club is where people go, or you go on Tinder, you hook up with somebody, you go out for dinner, and then you have sex with them once, right? You have sex with them once, and you don't, then it sucks, say the sex sucks for both of you, so you block him, he blocks you, and it's so gross that you don't even want to think about him, talk about him, whatever. That cord is going to last for 7 years. If one of those two parties starts thinking about the other person, calling them, stalking them on Facebook, talking to their friends. So if one of those two parties, one or both of those parties, put more energy and attention into the cord, Tebogo, I see your hand. Put something in the chat for now, I'll get to it. And then, so it extends the longevity of the cord. So let's talk about why the cord lasts for 7 years. So sexual energy is your creation energy, literally sexual energy, and I'm going to be inflammatory now. Sexual energy is your God energy. When we think about God, some of the words we use for God is creator, right? God creates everything. And so creative energy is divine energy, it's godly energy. So we understand that if you have sex under the right conditions, you can make a child. That's one of the things that sex can create. It's something that puts us in a divine, godly space where we too can create something. So every sexual encounter has the potential of creating something. The most physical thing sex can create is a child. And developmentally, on a spiritual level, a child needs the energy of both of their parents until they turn 7 years old. So when you have sex with someone, and I'm going to preface this by the fact that I am heterosexual. I was young and adventurous. I've made out with women, blah, 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 because that's what you do when you are young. However, I am heterosexual and I cannot answer questions about what happens if sex is between 2 women or 2 men or whatever. I'm sure that people who are in a good position to answer that. I'm not one of them. I don't know about that. So men, women have sex. It creates this energetic cord in case it births a child, because this child will have to have the energy of the mother and the father holding the matrix that this child is going into for 7 years. So that's where the 7 years comes from. So everybody that you've had sex with at least one time, you will have a cord with for a minimum of 7 years. If more energy goes into that cord, and it doesn't have to be positive, even if you're like, oh my God, that's the worst sex I had, you call all your friends and you describe how small the thing was, or that he thought he was by my clit, Gandhi, he was way, or any energy you put into it makes it last for a bit longer. Yes, you can cut the cords, but that's the answer. So the first part was about the connection, and cleansing is not, Monde, cleansing is not the right word for it. There is cleansing that is advised, but that's a whole different thing from cord cutting. You can cut a cord with somebody you've had sex with, and you don't have to come to someone like me or whatever. You can do it yourself. It's primarily about intention, right? So you understand that this cord is being created, you visualize yourself, you visualize the person, and then you sort of feel into your body. When you think about them, there'll be a particular place where you feel it. Pick anybody in your life, think about them. And as soon as you think about them, there'll be a part of your body that feels very intense. When you think about some people, you feel them in your heart. Some people, you feel them in your throat. Some people, you feel them around your genitals, wherever. And that will tell you where the cord is. Sexual cords are always around the sacral area, like literally the sacrum. I'm going to stand up. Like by sacrum, I mean this part here. This is your sacrum. And that's generally where they are. And then you visualize yourself cutting the cord, and the issue there, not the issue, the trick is that you need to afterwards, after you cut it, you have to seal it so that the energy stops leaking. I mean, people like me, there are lots of people who can do this for you if you don't want to do it yourself. Having said that, try not to have sex with people you don't want to be connected to. You know, I mean, you can go around cutting cords, but generally try not to have sex with people you're not trying to be connected to, because what happens with these cords is that, so you're connected to each other energetically. And what happens is that your energy can flow to them, their energy can flow to you. So what happens is that your stuff gets mixed up with each other. And I don't know if you realize this, but if you have sex with someone often enough, you take on some of their mannerisms, their personalities, their taste, the words they use, whatever, because you literally start merging with each other. And even if you've only been with this person once, you now have this energy cord between you. And one of two things happens. When one of you is low in energy, the one who's high in energy loses energy to the one who's low in energy. And this is both about quality and quantity. So sometimes you're exhausted, like you're literally just tired, right? So you are very low in energy. And if the person you are sexually connected to, you are corded to, is high in energy, you will take energy from them. And also applies with quality. So say you were, I want to make a petrol example, but I don't know fuck all about petrol. But anyway, say maybe your car is on 95 petrol, which is shiny, and somebody's on 93. And once you mix together, you go down, they go up. So you literally, a friend of mine actually sent me a quote the other day. I'm gonna look for it on my phone because it's actually worth reading. And because it's true, it said, I'm gonna find, it's not gonna take me too long to find, I promise you. It said, do not have sex with someone you do not want to become. Because you don't have sex with someone you don't want to become, because the actual sexual act in the cording starts merging your energy field. And in your energy field, you hold all your stuff, your beliefs, your goals, your traumas, your issues, your habits, your whatever. So it's this merging and joining. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to go on forever, but I think I answered that appropriately. I'm sure some questions came from that. So let's see. I remember.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let me follow up from the conversation that you are giving us, that when you engage with sex with somebody, you are creating cords. So it's not the cleansing that we need to do, but it's the cutting of the cords that needs to happen.
Yes, and right. So I'm gonna write cord cutting here and cleansing. I'll tell you about the cleansing just now, but I do remember that Tebogo raised a hand and I said I'll get back to her. So maybe can we give her
when you have done, when you just answered the cutting of the cord and everything, we'll follow up with that question.
Okay.
Because it's in the mix of the things that we're talking about.
Okay, so the cutting of the cord will stop that thing. I get now there's a conduit. Your energy is going to the person's energy is going to you. So the cord cutting resolves that problem, right? However, cleansing is another thing altogether, right? So when it comes to physiology, and as we move deeper and deeper into the 21st century and we convolute the truth and we twist ourselves and we become so politically correct and we don't want to accept that gender is a real thing and blah, 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 we're getting ourselves all twisted into a very complicated space. However, there is such a thing as gender, the men and the women. And by nature, how women are built is that we are receptive And feminine energy is receptive in its nature, and masculine energy is more assertive. It puts out. And sex is a very good example of that. What happens when a man is aroused? He gets an erection. It's there, it's external, you see it. He puts his penis into you. You are receptive, you take it in, it goes into you, right? What happens is that when a man ejaculates, he puts a lot of data, because now we're in a place of data. Funny enough, the fact that we now know computers so well makes it very easy to explain energy, which was hard to do before, because energy is information, it's data. A man, when he ejaculates, he puts a lot of data into you. So think about it. You've got an egg, right? I'm going to go back to procreation because it's an easy way to explain this. You have an egg. This egg holds your DNA. He's got sperm. This sperm holds his DNA. If the egg and the sperm get together, they are going to make a whole human being. So 46 years ago, my mother and father had sex. It was a tiny, tiny egg and a tiny, tiny sperm, but the amount of information that was held in those two things was complex enough that 46 years later, here I am. I can do all of these things. I've created all of these things in the world, right? Because of information that was held in the egg and information that was held in the sperm. So every time a man ejaculates into you, whether you conceive or not, it's a data dump. All of that information lands in your womb. So in part, your period to some extent deals with that. So you menstruating every month to some extent deals with some of that information. But not all of that information stays in your womb, because that information, just as much as when you connect to the internet, you don't see the information coming, but it ends up on your phone, laptop, or whatever. Some of them get into your own energetic stream, which is where what the cleansing is about. So the cord cutting and the cleansing are two, they're not the same thing. Which again, I go back to the fact that generally don't have sex with people you don't want to become. I'm not saying that you want to become your husband, your boyfriend, or whatever, but if you look at somebody and you feel that this is not somebody I want impacting the person I become, don't have sex with them. And now I see Debo's question. Debo, condoms have nothing to do with it. The only thing that the condom is stopping is the physical sperm. It doesn't stop any of the energetic stuff. And I like that your question is about a condom, because I actually say this every now and then. I speak to youngish women. I don't like it, but I always get talked into doing it. And I say to them, and clearly it has to be said to grown women as well, don't have sex with anybody that you need to wear a condom to have sex with. If the only reason you're using the condom is so you don't fall pregnant, fine. But if there's any other reason beyond, I don't want to fall pregnant, the fact that you think a condom is protection is delusional, because condoms don't stop energetic transfers. So if you think you need a condom to protect you from the human, don't sleep with the human.
Okay. Yeah, you've covered Tebogo. So with that, coupled with that, is that the context of speaking on this question of spirituality and sex was women are over 45, women are over 50. Mm-hmm. They kiss frogs in the process. Mm-hmm. While they're kissing those frogs, and you are saying, don't have sex with somebody that you don't want to become. So there's casual sex that people come across. Mm-hmm. What's your take on that?
On what? You haven't asked me a question.
The
Ask me a
question
question.
is, the women said it's dating after 40 and after 50. While you are on the journey, you meet people, and some you end up sleeping with them, some you end up only on dates with them. Starting from the date to the sexual encounter, your own assertion is that there's a spiritual energy exchange. So would there be a need then of constantly cord cutting if you've had an intimate moment with somebody?
Yeah. Okay. So here are a couple of things, right? Number one is that what is number one? I forgot number one. Okay, so here's the first thing. More often than not, people confuse being horny with the need for touch. And touch is a very fundamental need that humans have. People need to be touched a lot more than you can imagine. I mean, there was some study that was done years ago with orphan children. I think it was in Germany or somewhere in Europe. And so children who were in orphanages, and all the needs were met, like they were fed, their diapers were changed, doctors checked them or whatever, but they were not held because they were in an orphanage and there were not enough people going around. And they had a condition that they started calling failure to thrive. So they were not developing quickly, but physiologically, there was nothing wrong with them. And the thing that was wrong with them was literally that they are not being held. Touch is a big part of feeling human, of thriving, right? And when you're in the womb because we're talking about sex, so children have this image, and I think it's because of the pictures that we see. They imagine a womb that's this huge, and then there's a tiny baby swimming around in the womb with lots of space, but there's no such thing. Your womb grows as the baby grows. So the entire time that you're pregnant, your womb is holding your baby, and it's a muscle. So it's always constantly touching the baby. So one of the first senses of ours that becomes nurtured is always being held. And people who've had children in the past 10, 15 years might have heard about something called swaddling. When babies are all freaking out, you wrap them tight so they come down, because that's how the womb is. You get born, you don't stop having that need for touch. When you have young children, you are lucky and unlucky at the same time, because children want to be touched all the time. They climb on you, they kiss you, they hold you, they're sucking your breast, whatever. Actually comes to a point where you have a touch overload. And when your person tries to touch you, like, leave me alone, because you're like overtouched. And then as you grow older, you get to a point in your teens where there's a lot less touch that happens. And then for some reason, it goes. And then we get to a point where the only time we get touched is by sexual partners. And then we start conflating these two things. And I promise you, most of what you think is a craving for sex is not. It's a craving for touch. So, okay. And if you start fulfilling your need to be touched, and that even includes touching yourself, right? A lot of us are in autopilot. I'm the same as well. When I wash, I'm like, I'm not present, whatever. If you start being present when you wash, when you're applying your creams and whatever, and you are present to the touch, it starts feeding that. If you live by yourself, pets are good. Pets are great for that, because touch is touch. The trick is for it to be loving touch. You can go to the Thai people, the little Thai women, to walk on you. You can get massages or whatever. But the thing is, and the nice thing is about dealing with touch before you go looking for sex, is because the hornier you are, the more your judgment goes out the window, and then you sleep with all sorts of shady people, and then afterwards you're like, why did I do that? You know? And so get yourself all touched up so you can raise your standards as well before you say you are into people. So I thought that would be very important. And the funny thing is that the touch can come from you. It just needs to be loving touch. Touch is a big thing, guys. It's literally everybody's love language. And we don't think we know this, but we know this, because what happens when you're angry with someone, even if it's somebody you love, when you're really angry with them and they reach out, you're like, don't touch me, because you understand how much touch. And even when you're talking about emotions, you'll say that touched me. Touch is deep. And we get very thirsty for it, and then we make all sorts of messed up decisions just because we're not getting touched enough. That's the first thing. The second thing is that before you go and have very bad sex with old men with beer guts, there is a need for sexual gratification. And I know having sex with yourself is generally not as fun as having sex with someone else. But the irony of it is that a lot of times women, and from what I see, most of the people here are women complain about men's approach to sex, that they skip over the foreplay, whatever, they're in a hurry to get to penetrative sex. But when women have sex with themselves, they have sex with themselves like men, right? So if you're with a man, you want him to take time to turn you on through foreplay, whatever. If he takes 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, you're like, oh my God, this guy is better than every other guy who dials my nipples twice, hits my clit, and then he wants to go in. But when we have sex with ourselves, we do it like a guy. We run to getting ourselves off as quickly as possible. And we all know how to get ourselves off because we are ourselves. And so what you need to learn to do is, when you have sex with yourself, have sex with yourself like you are a woman having sex, right? Awaken all your senses, turn yourself on, make things smell nice, look nice, touch yourself, have the music, whatever. Literally help that sexual energy build up. If you press the buttons, because it's your own body, you know where the buttons are. You press the buttons, in 3 minutes, you have an orgasm, it's done. It's not going to feed the inherent need of sexual satisfaction. So learn to actually touch yourself, turn yourself on, build up that energy, hold it. The other thing that we were not taught very well is that people are actually quite uncomfortable with feeling sexually turned on. We are in a hurry to expel the energy, to get rid of that energy. And that energy is very powerful. So we rush to releasing it through orgasm. And then you miss out on the journey. It's like you're in Joburg, you really want to go to the coast. You want to go to the coast, but you also are looking forward to the road trip. And when we have sex with men, we're very clear on that yes, I want to get to Cape Town, but I also want to see the garden route. And then when we have sex with ourselves, we move from Joburg and go directly to Cape Town. We miss the garden route. And then we still say, no, sex with myself is not, it's not the same. And when I was speaking to Disebo, when she recruited me for this talk, there was some mention about vibrators. And I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about this because people don't like it when I say this, but I'm going to say it. Stop using vibrators. Just stop. Stop it. Stop using vibrators. Okay. Monday, are you going to ask me why, or are you just going to process?
I'm just going to pause you with that one. Yes, I acknowledge Nonhli and you, Pindile. But before you get there,
please give us a chance.
Yes, give other people a chance.
Wait, you get a chance. Yeah, I've not been speaking. I was just asking questions, and I mean, I wanted Kagiso to articulate as much as she can. And I see the questions here that are coming that I before you guys can speak, that you note them down, please, Kagiso, regarding, are you discouraging casual sex? Would you really lust after somebody just wanting to have sex with them? And is that right?
I'm not discouraging casual sex.
No to those questions. Then Nonhli, you can ask your question.
Oh, no, okay. Am I supposed to know them? You can just ask them and then I'll answer them. I don't want to note anything.
Okay, so are you discouraging casual sex?
No, I'm not discouraging anything. I am a believer of understanding. Cigarettes have warnings. They say smoking causes cancer. Some people choose to smoke, but they know. You're all adults. I really don't give a shit what you do with your lives. I'm just telling you, these are the consequences. This is how you deal with it. I am not attached at all to whether people have casual sex or not.
Okay, Kagiso?
Nonhli is complaining. Nonhli, can you pose your question? I hear you.
Kagiso, I want to find out, why are you discouraging vibrators? I've got two questions for you.
Okay, do you want to say them both or should I answer the vibrator thing first?
Answer the vibrator thing first.
Okay, so I have nothing against phallic shaped objects that don't vibrate. So dildos, crystals, cucumbers, carrots, whatever. I have an issue with vibrators, literally things that go bzzz, because what they do is that the word is the English. I ran out of my English bundles. they desensitize you. I'm going to make an example that seems very extreme because I can't find the word right now. But so I do energy clearings and I have a lot of clients, main clients who are addicted to porn, right? So they'll watch porn, free porn initially, which is quite innocuous, and then it doesn't get them off as much anymore. And then they have to start paying for porn, and it has to get weirder and weirder and more intense for them to get the same feeling. Vibrators have a similar thing, a similar effect on your sensual pleasure. The more you get sensitized to that buzzing and pulsating and whatever, the less you are responsive to normal touch that doesn't pulse and vibrate and whatever. And in the long run, it's like that guy who needs more and more porn that is more and more intense to get off, the guy who started snuffing one line of coke and then they needed 2 and then they needed 3 and then they needed 4. And so I'm not attached to the fact that now you were on setting 1, now you're on setting 17 for you to get off. Except that a very big part of sex that most people don't understand is that sex is, I said when we began, that your sexual energy is your creative energy. So it doesn't just create children. You can create pretty much anything. You can send the energy of sex to birth anything, but you need to be able to hold it. The more you hold that feeling of being turned on, the arousal, the more you build this energy, the more you build this energy. And when you send it to whatever it is you want to manifest, it's a lot of it. And when you get less and less sensitive, like from constantly using mechanical things, you lose the ability to hold that energy. So I'm a lot more concerned about how it takes away from your creative energy than from anything else, because you become numb. It's like, so I hate shoes, right? I can't stand shoes. So I walk everywhere. As soon as I get into my house, I take my shoes off. I walk everywhere and my feet are quite thick at the bottom. Not too many things hurt me. But if I started wearing shoes consistently for 3 years, my souls are going to start becoming a lot more sensitive. So the vibrator life, the very constant vibrator life, is similar to having the bottom of the soles of your feet being very thick. And to build, Tebogo, is this based on research? I started by talking about what's your source. I'll come back to your answer. I shouldn't look at the chat while I'm talking. I'll come back to your answer to the based on research thing as well. If you start getting used to more and more intensity, you numb yourself out. And most of us, you can remember this. I don't know when you started making out with boys or girls or whatever, but when you were 15 or 16 or 17, somebody could just touch your ear or whisper in your ear or just literally hold your hand, and you could literally feel that arousal coursing through your body. And that's possible at any age. It's possible at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. But when you start getting off in such a mechanical manner, you lose that ability. And when you lose that ability, you lose the power to build that creative sexual energy that you can use to create many, many things. So again, I'm really not quite attached to what people do with their lives or their genitals, but I'm telling you the pros and cons of stuff.
Okay, let's say then, I'll tell him for years, and then come on the vibrator. So what, in the meantime, what are you supposed to be doing?
That's why I said,
yeah, my other question,
yeah.
my other question is the sensual massages.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get energy from the people that are doing them?
It depends. Okay, so let me go back to the vibrator thing. I said that I have an issue with vibrators, the mechanical things with the intensity and the settings. I have nothing against anything, whether you're touching yourself, you're using, I mean, guys, I don't know. You said this thing is being, you said this thing is being streamed on Facebook. So I don't know what is what, but you get many phallic shaped things that don't buzz and vibrate and don't have settings. I don't have a problem with that. My issue is that whole unnatural intensity that shortens the amount of time you spend in actual arousal. And there's a, okay. All right, so one of the things that one of the documents, because I give classes, so there's a document that I have here. I open them just in case they might become useful. And okay, so here's one. It's from a class that I gave. So the car is a chemetic word for your etheric body, your energy body, right? And it says the car is strengthened by ecstasy. Ecstatic states are nourishing and strengthening to the car body. With each strengthening of the car, it becomes more magnetic, drawing to the initiate that which he or she desires. So the longer you can hold the state of being aroused, the more magnetic you are, the more attractive you are to the things that you want to manifest. And if you become a vibrator person and you move from Joburg immediately to Cape Town and you don't learn to savor, hold, and enjoy the route, the scenic route, the less you break the system. Does that help? And does that help? Where the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah. It was not clear who asked the question.
Yes, I get you. No,
okay.
Yeah, I get you. It's a vibration part of it that you,
It's the intensity, the natural intensity.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I get
Then
you.
shall we move to Pindile? Pindile, you had a question.
Yebo.
Yeah.
Evening, ladies. Hi, Kagiso.
Hello.
Yeah, I just want to know when you are sleeping, and you dream sleeping with a man you do not know and you really enjoy. What's really happening there?
Yo, my girl, how are you asking this when we've got 8 minutes to go? Yo, that's another whole other rabbit hole.
I was listening to the explanation, the education, you know.
Okay, I'm going to, I have a hard stop at 7:30. I can we said this is an hour, but I will start the conversation. So there are very, very, very few sex dreams that are just dreams. Most sex dreams are actual sex. It's just a sex that's happening on the astral plane. So the astral plane is a place like this physical plane where we're in, but it's a plane of emotions and thoughts. So things exist there, but not in the physical body. So sex dreams are usually dreams. They're not dreams. They are your mind explaining to you, interpreting what's happening on the astral plane, which is sex in the astral plane, but it comes through as a dream. Let me try and help you understand this. So I'm sure you've had a dream where something's happening in the real world, and it sort of comes into your dream, and your dream interprets it in a particular way. Okay, this is a horrible example, but I don't know if I'm making sense. Something might be happening in the real world, and it comes into your dream, and in your dream, it seems different, but they are coming together. And sex dreams are usually real sex on the astral plane. So that's the question that you asked. The question that you should probably ask is, why does sex happen on the astral plane? That's a far more important question, but can you tell me why you were asking that question?
You know why I'm asking? Okay, it's because normally they would say when you're sleeping with people that you do not know in your dreams, you'll be sleeping with the decoloshes. So it really worried me because I didn't understand what really that meant.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I need
true,
to.
it's true.
It's out of your. Is it true?
Yeah, that's usually what's happening.
Okay.
I know. I was like, this is the worst time to ask this question because it's like a whole other 3-hour conversation.
Maybe let's steer clear, and maybe we can talk about that the other time. So Michelle wanted a re-explanation of the exchange of energy. Michelle, are you still on that?
Are you not recording this? Because I mean, why would we do a re-explanation if we could? If it's recorded, she could much rather watch, unless if she explained it and she didn't understand the explanation.
That's exactly what I was trying to get from her. If maybe she needed to ask questions regarding that. Michelle, are you good with that?
Sorry, I think you've got I didn't ask a question on the exchange of energy. I'm not sure if it was me.
Or maybe it was someone else.
I think it was somebody else.
No. Okay, no, that's fine. Thank you, Michelle.
No.
Sorry, I thought it was you.
But I will, yeah, because I missed the beginning. So if you do have the full recording, I'd love to hear it from the beginning.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Before I come to you, Kagiso, Tidi, is Tidi here? Tidi Nonhli.
Hello, Monde. I'm here. I'm listening to Kagiso.
Yes.
Hi, everyone.
It's for me the dreams and the casualness of it. From your take, how would you explain that to a person?
Okay,
I'm sorry, are you talking
Monde.
to me or Tidi?
No, I'm directing to Tidi now.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Monde. I think for me, the whole issue of the conscious and the unconscious mind comes into play, because normally the things that we think about are the things that would either continue in our dreams, or if we are dreaming, it will be an extension of our own reality. So sometimes when you are thinking of maybe sex, for instance, and you end up having those kind of dreams, it means there has been a preoccupation of you sleeping with somebody, or there has been a need for you to engage in a sexual encounter.
Okay. So thank you so much for that, because I want people to get it from all angles. And the cutting of the cord, Kagiso spoke about the cutting of the cord. So in the psychological part of it, how would that happen? Because she says you can do that process on your own.
You can do that process on your own, Monde, or you can also go through therapy where in a particular case you have an unhealthy relationship, let's say mother-daughter type of relationship, and you can be able to go through those kind of issues that are bothering you, so that at the end of the day you release and you accept, or you kind of make a new way of dealing with your new reality in terms of what it is that you want out of the relationship. If a relationship is toxic, you will need to make new roads about what it is that you want out of that relationship, because the relationship is not serving you. So why would you still be in that relationship? So therapy will help you to detangle yourself from that kind of unhealthy relationship.
Okay, detangling.
And Jenna, what did Jada call her thing?
Entanglement.
Yeah.
And Nonhli, do we have any questions from Facebook? Nonhli? Nonhli?
Sorry, I've unmute. Oh, okay. On Facebook, I think, this thing is just going to, an hour is not enough. We need to just carry on next week. I do have a question from Facebook. Let me read it quickly. No, it's a lot of questions. I think Tidi can go to the Facebook. Tracy is asking, what kind of experiences, things can one create sexual energy? What are you specifically referring to? So I think Sidi can go to the Facebook page, and yeah, there's a lot of questions, and maybe she can try and answer those questions, and we can try and answer those questions because we're running out of time.
I will go to Kagiso while you are Sidi is going there.
Yeah, I don't have access to Facebook, so I won't be able to see the questions.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
I wanted to say Kagiso because I think this.
Okay.
I wanted to say Kagiso. Yeah, Kagiso, you can answer those questions.
I don't know how you do that. I do have a hard stop now because this wasn't part of my regular life. So I give classes on Mondays and Tuesdays from 7 to 8. So the fact that I was doing this, my family is not particularly happy with me.
Yeah.
However, I am. Obviously, you guys are interested in whatever you're interested in. If you are this open to having a different concept of sex beyond the physical and what happens in the energy world and whatever, I'd much rather have a conversation about how you use sex to create sex as creative energy beyond children. And that would also go back to the whole idea of astral sex. Like, I mean, the sleeping with a tocologist thing, I said yes very quickly. It's yes, right? But there's a why. Why are they doing it, right? And it's a very, very big question, and it's worth answering. So if you guys want to play with me some other time, I would really love to talk on that. If people are interested, give me a shout. Between Nonhli and Disebo, you've got my Facebook and Instagram stuff for people who want to follow up with me. But I do have to go, ladies. I didn't think I was going to do so much talking. I'm sorry. I thought I was taking action.
Sidi, can I say thank you? Thank you so much, Sidi, for your time. I really appreciate it. It was really, really interesting. I'll call you tomorrow. Kagiso, man, why do I keep on saying to you? Kagiso, thank you so much. It was so interesting. You drove this thing very well. And you know, from your conversation, we've got a lot of questions now. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Righty, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Monday.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.